Iran is a country that also have a diversity within the religion itself, and also that seeing that Iran itself as a country as a destination country towards international society, somehow in the status quo right now that on the military policy, the morality policy itself is they violating the essence of the religions and also the essence of the religion itself. And somehow in here that the status quo itself didn't holding up the goal of the government itself. And somehow the goal is simply, and somehow they create security and also they create comfortability inside the Iran itself for all societies and also for international societies, ladies and gentlemen. In here, if we want to hold up these goals, we believe that the Rouhani as the president itself should ban the morality policy in Iran itself, ladies and gentlemen. In here, going towards my definitions, in here that Rouhani as the leaders of the Iran itself, that he have the responsibility, that he have the one who has the responsibility to ban this morality policy itself, ladies and gentlemen. In here, let me see what the morality policy itself doing in this kind of country itself. First of all, the morality policy itself is judging based on the appearances and also judging based on the acts and also judging based on whether they speak or not, ladies. What they speak is good, whether they speak is good or not, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, in here that the morality policy itself will be harassing, moreover will be punishing the people that they judge that they not even in morality, in the same morality with the judgment of the morality policy itself, ladies and gentlemen. In here that our stance is clear whether or not we want to ban the morality policy to provide you the security and also comfortability for our peoples either inside this country, also international societies. And somehow the negative side of the house have to prove to us whether or not the comfortabilities and also the securities of all essence of the society itself will be held up with the morality policy itself, ladies and gentlemen. And before going to my cases, is there any POI? Okay, thank you. In here that I have two argumentations. The first argumentation is whether or not why we have to ban this kind of the morality policy itself. And the second is and somehow morality policy action in here is also redundant towards the Iran itself and also towards the true meaning of morality itself, ladies and gentlemen. Going to my first cases on somehow why we have to ban this kind of morality policy itself. First of all, we as the society, international society, have a right to choose whether or not our appearances and also whether or not our goals inside this kind of government itself. Moreover, what the actions in the morality policy do itself in here that they are forcing them and for example they have in Iran they have all of the society have to wear hijab for the examples, and somehow that as the country that have diversities in the religion itself and also have already been a destination towards the international societies in here that the forcing itself will create the uncomfortabilities towards all of the society. What is meant by uncomfortabilities? That somehow in here we have a right to showing up on our cultures, moreover on our religions for the example. But somehow this morality policy itself is already breaking the morality value from the essence of its cultures. For the example, that somehow from this culture itself they can go so up without wearing hijab for the example. For somehow this morality policy itself breaking the essence of another religions for the example, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, in here this morality policy itself is also breaking another essence of an expressions in here, ladies and gentlemen, because we know that expressions is an abstract thing, that it is not an exact thing that we can see or that we can judge itself, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, its people have its personal expressions, ladies and gentlemen. With the morality policy itself, clearly judges the expression itself. First of all, the impact is they can killing the expressions, they can killing the creativities of the society also, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what we want to hold back, ladies and gentlemen. For some, going to my second cases, whether or not this is redundant toward the iron itself, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that iron is also a country, ladies and gentlemen. As an international government, they offer that they get the visiting from another international society, for example. But somehow, just what I did explain to you on how the morality itself is they judge it based of the actions with appearances and something and so on, ladies and gentlemen. But somehow in here that why it can be redundant from the very first time, that all of the people, even the governmental representative, have to wearing what the military policy itself wanted, ladies and gentlemen. For somehow it can be redundant toward the iron itself. Somehow that they in here make themselves as a closed country, ladies and gentlemen. Why? First of all, as a representative, we usually representative our culture. For the example, ladies and gentlemen, for example that in India, ladies and gentlemen, they wearing all kind of stuff that the stuff itself is really opening. For the examples in here that they represent their culture towards the country itself. Moreover, in here that what the military police do in here is they can make the redundance towards the iron country itself. Moreover, in the future itself, it can make the society value itself will become decreasing, and also the comfortability will become decreasing, and also the trustment in here towards the government and somehow it will be breaking too. Towards my second layer, whether or not it's also breaking the essence of religions, ladies and gentlemen. We believe that somehow they will even if they said that in here we force them in here to wear hijab, for example, to make them feel secure, for example, and somehow in here that the security itself exists, the crime itself exists if there is a chance to do that, ladies and gentlemen. Moreover, with we wearing hijab itself, we never guaranteed that people will be secure, for example. Moreover, in here that somehow the people itself the goal of the government itself will cannot be achieved because somehow they will not comfortable, and somehow they going out from their house, for example, they have to in order they not get punishments, they have to think about on how they action, on how they walk, for example, on how they speak towards each other, for example. Somehow this comfortability is never be exist, and also the essence of security will never be achieved towards the society, because society
where we want to stay in current status quo, where we keep the morality police in Iran itself, because we always respect the idea of accommodating society's circumstances inside Iran, and also the consistent image of Iran itself. Their proposal will only give unstable moral value inside the country itself, and even violate the basic value of each society inside Iran. So ladies and gentlemen, I will bring 2 points of argument. On why Rouhani should respect the morality police inside Iran, and second, on why it will worsen Iran's image in international society. But before I proceed with my arguments, I'll give my response toward this side of the house first. So first of all, they talk about the idea of violating minority itself, whereas they are the place of diversity religions and also international society. But first, we say that the idea of religions inside the Iran itself, that the majority of people in Iran is Muslim people. No problem with this kind of majority. But talking about the idea of minority, we believe the time they choose this country, they are agreeing with the idea of the value itself. But what differentiates them with the idea of the majority itself is the time they have a different implementation towards certain value inside the country itself, and to what extent they want to implement this value itself. But in the end, our proposal already have this morality police, we still have proportional justice system toward these people, and also a clear and transparent law inside the decision of this law itself toward this minority. Therefore, we believe that it's still clear and will be fair toward this minority. And second thing, we we question on why these countries will accommodate this international society, because these people should be the one to respect the law where they go toward this country. That's why we can impose certain CGF toward foreigners who do crime in our country, because if they are violating the value where they are coming from and not respecting the idea of value in their country. And going to the second point of issues, how they say that it's violating right of expression and the comfortability. We believe that government can always standardize until what extent the right of the expression itself, upon how the parameter is on the society value itself and also the demand of the society, and the right come with the responsibility itself. They don't have this right because they already disrespect the value in the very first place. And also we believe that the idea of security and justice system should protect the value inside this country itself, not this one who already violate the idea of value itself. So therefore we believe that their argument already crumbled down. Ladies and gentlemen, going to my first point of argument on why Rouhani should respect the morality police in Iran. And we believe, first layer, we would like to prove to you on why Rouhani is the president, as the president should never sacrifice their basic rules for other country interference. We believe that the idea of president, he should uphold the idea of freedom of expression inside their society and the definition of the freedom of expression in our side. We believe that the law inside a country should first adapt with the necessity of the country, and second, fulfill the demands of the society itself. We believe the idea of morality police exists in society because it is the demand of the society, and the moral police is really exclusive in this Iran because it comes from the historical point of the society itself. How from even the government from before the government take place and impose their certain value, this morality already become the basic point of view of the society. They already become the safety net of the psychological needs of the society. Therefore, we believe that government should not change this morality that already gives these people sense of security from the very first place. But not stopping on that point, this law imposed cultural point inside our proposal, because something that become the identity of this country, something that symbolize the consistent image of this country, on how they hold to the value of their country and not easily being swayed by other country value. It's, in the end, we believe that the idea of consistency is the only way to impose that this idea is the identity of this country itself, which is really important in our proposal. And going to my second point of layer, on why other country interference should not be our first priority. Because we believe that the idea of law inside each country is different according to the circumstances inside each country itself. We can never standardize how to deal with each country's society demands. The value inside Iran is affected from how your country being established in the very first place. Take liberal country, for instance, and communist, for instance. We believe that communists will never change their basic value just because they are being oppressed by liberal, for instance. Why? Because their way to solve problem and also the problem that occur is really different between this country itself. We believe on how I'll give the characterization of Iran in the current status quo. We believe that Iran, most of them is a really conservative Muslim. We believe these people, which is really conservative, is really persistent in their idea. The time they're being oppressed, they will become more reluctant toward this law that happened in their proposal. We believe that in the end, the only way to control them is to respect their law and work hand in hand with the law that been imposed by the government itself. Therefore, we believe that the idea of law will be better in our side, and it is justified for the government to still keep this law in the current status quo. Now, ladies and gentlemen, going to my second point of argument. Before that, yes, sir?
Seeing that the religion itself is exclusivity, it means that from the very first time the government never have a right to interruption what inside this religion itself.
Exactly, sir. Because it is the exclusivity of this society, we should respect the idea of exclusivity inside the society itself. This is not the job of government to interfere until we should eliminate this basic value that being upheld by these people that being majority inside the Iran itself, which will really violating the idea of society, not only the minority but majority of your society. Therefore, we should go with our proposal. Now, going to my second point of argument on why it will worsen Iran image in international society. We believe that international society will see Iran as someone who is taking half stance in current status quo if we implement their proposal. Because they are being seen as country who really dependent toward another country. Because it's having seen as country who is weak and easy to be influenced. Why? Because we believe that this basic value is the only thing that each country should hold on to. Something that shows their stance for some value inside the international society. The time their basic value is easily being changed just because the operation from another country, they will be seen as country that really relying toward another country and don't have their own identity inside international society. Therefore, we don't think that their proposal is having a clear stance inside the international society, which will be available toward this country, which is they are being the one who really dependent toward another country and don't have their own capability to stand for their own. Therefore, we believe that I have proven to you that first, it is we should respect the idea of morality police, and second, on why it will worsen Iran image if we go with their proposal. Therefore, we beg you to oppose.
The religion itself. It is something that very privacy from every single people in this world. Means that we have no any right to manage this kind of thing, no matter who we are, especially or no matter if they are also the government itself. This is the reason why, for the very first time, the government already break the essence of the religion itself. In here, I, as the second speaker of the positive side of the house, will give you several cases. First, about the ineffectivity of moral police acts, and secondly, about the bad impact that will happen if you still use this kind of policy itself. But before all that, I will give you several response for the negative side of the house. The negative side of the house came up with the essence of the identity as they are as the Islamic country, ladies and gentlemen. But we can see here the essence of the identity itself is even if you confident with your own self, you feel comfortable with your own self, that you can show your own characteristic no matter without any influence for another side, ladies and gentlemen. But we can see in here that we cannot force or we cannot generalize all of the society to obey the word of the government itself, because in here there will make the feelings of uncomfortable and confidence of their society came up, and that's the reason why this is also break the essence of the identity itself. And secondly, they believe about the existence itself. They believe that as the good government, they support no thank you. They support to uphold the existence of their ideology, for example. But in here, as a good government, you're supposed to be the government that flexible, not the government that strict to one ideology. You're supposed to understand the situation in your society, not only show in the situation in your society a long time ago, ladies and gentlemen. This is the reason why, as the good government, you should not to still push your society to obeying the obligation that exists in long time ago. They're not really suitable with our society in our era now. This is the reason why the regimen of the negative side cannot to be accepted. Let's go into my first case. In here about the effectivity of moral police act. The act of this police will never give a significant effect for the goal of the police itself. That is to give the best security to their society. For example, they force their society to use hijab or veil, for example, use the long dress with the reason make them secure. For a man, for example, they want to touch him. We can see even they are obeying this kind of obligation, we cannot to guarantee in 100% that they will never get attachment of another subject, for example, a man. In here, we only give them forcement to obey the obligation without any specific control for them. In fact, in the outside of the control itself, they still get such kind of disturbing, no matter that it's straight disturbing or soft disturbing. For example, in status quo right now, there's still a lot of a problem about this kind of thing, like violence to the woman, or maybe rape, or maybe rape, even if they already obeying the rule of this police to use the fame, for example, alone dress or for example. Means that the main problem of this kind of case is not depend on the clothes or not the body of the woman, for example, but the reason why this problem is still exists in our society because the mindset of the society itself to respect another people, to care with another people and to protect another people is still low, ladies and gentlemen. So that's the reason why to still use this kind of obligation of this kind of policy will never give a significant effect to reach the goal of the secure itself of the police to secure the society because the main problem of this kind of thing is not in that area. That's the reason why the thing that we are supposed to do is not with use this kind of obligation, but we to change the mindset of the society about how increase the mindset of increase the feeling to protect the another people and to repair the behavior of their society. Not with use this kind of thing, but for example, but increasing the knowledge about the several religion, knowledge about the increasing the knowledge about how to be the good people that have a good behavior. We believe on how, with this kind of thing, we will create a better future implication that not only happen for a several time but will still happen for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. And let's go into my second case. In here about the bad impact that will create if we still use this kind of proposal. In here, there will be a big impact. That is, there will be a big image of something that very sensitive and supposed to be the holy thing in our society. That is the religion, ladies and gentlemen, as unsetter of the all rule of this kind of obligation. How? If in the society suddenly there is still a lot of prostitution, for example, for the society, then in here the society is still use the faith because they're supposed to obey the government law. Who that will got the bad impact to this bad image to this kind of thing is back again to religion. This of course this kind of thing is not the goal. It's not the goal of the government itself. This is the reason why we believe that this kind of proposal itself is this kind of policy itself will give no any good impact, but will give a lot of bad impact that not good for our country. That's the reason why we beg to propose.
Every religion, they have their own law and habits towards their morals. Every country have their own culture towards their daily life, and culture has been their basic norms and values that can't be changed just like that. It would need a huge amount of rehabilitation, and not all layers of society can follow the rehabilitation itself. Because obviously there's two layers because there's the conservative society and then there's also the moderate society. By banning the morally police itself, we're not able to fulfill the demand of the conservative society itself. But by not banning them, we can fulfill the demand both the conservative and also the moderate society. Why? Because whether you're moderate or whether you are conservative, you live in the same nation, right? You live under the same value. You live under the one value and norm that you want to uphold. So when you're talking about morals, we don't see that it's not fulfilling every demand of society. Because obviously, when you live in the same nation, you have the same morals and the same value that you want to uphold. Like for example, in Iran, it is a very religious for the Islamic. So you want to uphold the religious values of Islam itself. So by that, whether you're conservative or whether you're moderate, you still live under the same value. And in this debate, I have one extension that I want to bring, which is on how the proposal could create culture shock itself. But before I move to my extensions, I have a couple of rebuttals towards the proposition team. First of all, they said to us that government should be flexible towards any other change and stuff like that. Yes, they have to be flexible. But as government, you also have to hold on to the values of your society, because that's what makes your nation your nation. Because as government, you have to uphold what makes your nation different from others. You have to make, as government, you have to accommodate every demand of every layers of society. And by that already makes you flexible itself. And secondly, they said to us that that by not banning these morality police, this society value will obviously decrease.
Madam,
Yes.
but in here that want to debate is somehow we banning the morality policy itself, but somehow the identity of Islamic country is still there because somehow the society is Islamic. Thank you.
But in order to uphold the Islamic values itself, you have to uphold what Islam is about, like the way we dress properly, the way you wear hijab and stuff like that. Showing that you're being Islam doesn't mean that the essence of the religious itself is even though that the society is still Islam, but the religious essence itself it doesn't mean that it's still there. Back to my response. That society value will decrease. Well, of course not. It won't decrease because basically when you uphold the values of society about their norms and their basic values and other stuff, that means you are upholding the value of society and it won't break the essence of religion itself. And like you're trying to make every person in that nation to be comfortable, right? Including the international people itself. Well, obviously, like that is the consequence of law itself. Like by going to any country, like it doesn't have to be Iran, like going to Indonesia and stuff like that. You have to adapt with the law, right? You have to make sure that you are following the law that's there because you're in another country. So you obviously have to obey the law, and it's international society that has to adapt with us, not us who have to adapt with them. So basically, we don't really have to change our cultural values for the comfortability of the international society. And last response. Obviously, like you're saying that morality police will obviously judge those people depending on how they dress and other stuff like that, and they're punishing towards on how they dress and like that. Well, like obviously, morality police won't judge like the way they want. They have standardization, right? They have and their standardization and their law. It depends on the value and the norms of the society. So basically, they won't like easily punish like that. So moving on to my rebuttal. Moving on to my extensions. How their proposal will create culture shock. Well, first of all, culture is something that makes you different, right? Different from any other country and even religion. Culture is something you are supposed to be proud of and held on to, and to be protected inside your country. Because obviously, other countries, they're trying to protect their culture and making sure that their country is not being stolen by other countries. But here, you're trying to change it. So, like, why let go of something so precious you can hold on to when other countries are trying to hold on to the cultures that are, no thank you, they're trying to hold on to the cultures that they want to hold. So, we see here that it's going to be really bad if you change the culture of the country. Secondly, the change of culture itself, it is not an easy thing. Like when you change culture, it would be all done all of a sudden, right? And society could be in a position that is really hard to habituate, especially when the change comes from the outside world. And it's going to be a shock for all layers of society, especially those conservatives. And moreover, culture shock itself is really bad because like not all layers of society are able to cope with the change. Not all layers of society can easily habituate with the change of culture itself. Because obviously here, culture is going to, thank you. Not everyone can cope with the change because like even with this culture, it is used for everything, including solving the society problem. This culture is used as a basic to be used to fix what's going on in your society. So it is going to be really bad, and it's going to create a culture shock, which we see that that we can prevent by not implementing their proposal. So like by this, like we really don't want to change the culture that the nation have. We really want to uphold it and make sure that the nation still holds on to it, because like it's really, really important for us to hold on to it, and we really don't want to we really, really don't want to sacrifice any layers of society. We really don't want to sacrifice what our nation have for the international world. We really don't want to sacrifice something that we can hold on to, and because obviously, like law itself, it is adapted, and we want to adapt it with our society, because the one who is going to follow the cultures, the one who's going to follow the laws is going to be the society in that nation itself. So not the society from outside, or even diversity. Yes, we respect diversity, but it doesn't mean we have to change anything for it. So we really want to make sure that we can fulfill every demand, every layers of society, and making sure that we are able to make society feel comfortable with their usual moral values and their usual self. So for all these reasons, we beg to approach
Of the area itself, that we believe that our proposal still accommodated every layer religious in the iron suffers and gentleness. That's why we, as the Positasa of the House, don't want to ban the morality policy in Iran itself. Rather than Malang itself believe that they want to force and still using morality policy in their Iran itself, means that the non-Muslim religions should using the same faith for the example using faith for the example to be if they are opposed to itself, for example, means that the government don't think about the others minority people, or they don't think the minority people itself, for example. Here I have a separate rebuttal that the first rebuttal about the professionalism itself. The first speaker of the positive negative side of the House believed that every single police should follow the law in the Iran because the professionalism is sovereign and gentlemen. But we see that the idea of the professionalism itself still be there, because actually the professionalism for the police itself, for example, the government told to go to war, for example, that's the professionalism is still exists, still exists itself. But just because they're not using the faith, just because they should using the morality, using the morality itself, they're not the profession. They're also not professional, right? They're not professional. Means that's not the idea of the professionalism itself. Move to my second rebuttal about the identity of the country itself. We believe that the identity of the country still be in the area itself. For example, just because we using the faith for example for all the balls itself, that's still the identity of the area itself. There's other way for others countries know about the identity of the balls of police of the area itself. For example, they using a same uniform. For example, means that there's many ways for the iron itself without forcing all of the police to obeying the morality policy from the government itself, ladies and gentlemen. Moving to my third rebuttal about the culture about the creating culture of the iron itself. That's culture and the religious itself. There's a different characterized that are different characteristics. That here that the religious is something exclusive that we should not forcing all of them, and we should not showing in the public itself. For the example, like religious is something that the private that every people should not know us based on our appearance. For the example, that's different with the culture itself. That actually the culture, we not break the essence of the culture in Ireland itself, because we see that the culture of there's many ways of the culture still be there in Ireland itself. For the example, their dance. For the example, that means that there's a different characteristic between the religious and the culture itself. And with banning with ban morality policy in Ireland itself, we don't break the essence of the morality. We don't break the essence of the culture itself. Move to my fourth battle about the government should accommodate all demand of the society itself. That's the answer why we want to ban the morality policy in Iran itself, because the government should accommodate the others layer religious in Iran also. Also the law although the law is be there in Iran itself, should the government force the law itself for others religion to use the same religion in a polity itself. We see that it's not a right way for the government to force all of their societies to use the morality policy itself. Going to my classes here, that I have 2 points of classes. The first about urgency, second about the point of justifications. Move to my urgency. Why this is so urgent for the government to ban morality policy in Ireland itself, ladies and gentlemen, because we see that the government should purpose for the very first place that what is the purpose of the policy itself is not just because they should obey the morality and so on and so forth. They should how the good policy itself. We can see how the capability in policy itself. If they're not using the morality, should the government give a punishment if they have a good capability also? Of course not, because as the good police, we just not see for the appearance, but see that the police itself should, for example, how to service the society well. For example, that's the reason why this is urgent for the government to ban the morality itself, because the government means that should force all of the society, should force society to obey the government, to obey all the government stuff, and the government should do that. Going move to my second classes. That's about the point of justification. We see the point of justification. We see that this is so justifiable for all layers religious in Iran itself. That that government already accommodated all of the layer in religious. That also the government not just a thing about the majority demand in the society itself, and also if the negative side of the health bring the point that the police should obey the law and be an identity and creating the so on and so forth. The answer is with not banning morality policy. bring more worse happen in Iran itself, because of the reason we back to
still fail to prove to us and why it is so exclusive to ban the morality policy, and they fail to show how severe the problem and why it should be banned in the current status quo itself. And also I want to find out the inconsistency come from the government side of the house when the first speaker said that we should uphold the idea of diversity of religion, but they also imply that the Iran it should be labeled as Islamic country that should preserve the idea of Islamic culture itself. Now going to my first response to the team government. First, they say that the idea of allowing the morality policy, it is decreasing the society value and also breaking the morality value in such society itself. But exactly, their proposal is the one who decreasing the morality value itself, because first we should analyze the idea of existence of morality policy itself. The existence of morality policy is because there's a demand to protect the value that being preserved in the society, to protect the value that being imposed since long term by the society itself. And also the idea of value is also being habituated